Hello and welcome to my video taking off the rubber gasket and cleaning from my front load washing machine. This was so much harder than it needed to be, mostly because all of the videos that I found were kind of from professionals who had certain tools that I did not have. And I think since they had done it before, maybe they didn't show as much detail as I wanted to see. They were just kind of skimming through. So I filmed every little bit. Now, the thing you start with is this little coil here on the bottom. At least that's where it is on my washer. I'm showing you a pair of bent nose and chain nose pliers that are used for jewelry making. You can find these at Michael's or a craft store like that. And I do have legit tools, but these are so much easier in these tiny little loops that I was trying to get a hold of. So there is a tool that they sell for this, but this part, taking both of the coils off, there's this one and one further back, this was not difficult. It was just a matter of really getting my tools into the loops and pulling it out. So that was no biggie. The next thing I did was just push the rubber gasket as far as I could to the inside, and then I could see where this little hose is attached. Again, I took my bent nose pliers. I tried a couple of other things to remove these little clamps. I'll show you how they work in a little bit, but basically you just have to draw both sides together to release the tension, and then you can just kind of get the hose off of the little valve, I guess is what it's called. Now that that's off, I want to show you exactly where the second coil is hidden. It is right up here at the top, and I used the same tools to push the spring together, and that gave a little bit of tension away and I could pull off the spring. Are you prepared? Oh, it's so gross. It was so nasty. So after I had that little hose detached, I kind of tucked the front side in so I could get better access to this bottom hose. So that is the same kind of situation, the same little clamp. You just kind of open it up and then ease it off so that you can pull the hose off. And I'd also like to say I did this video over the course of several days, and you will see all of my nails slowly coming off because this is not easy work at all. It's such a tiny space is why. This little gray hose was attached also, so I had a little bit more trouble taking that off. But then you can just take this whole thing out. I threw it in the tub with a bunch of Dawn soap and hot water, put some gloves on, and just started scrubbing. Cleaning this rubber gasket was just a matter of time. I used a toothbrush, I used a wash rag, I just cleaned and cleaned and cleaned forever. I know that there are people who have said that they use vinegar on their gaskets, although I've heard that that can void your warranty, so maybe check that out. I've also heard people say that they use bleach to get rid of any mold that's on their gasket. I'm trying to stay away from bleach, so I just really scrubbed forever with Dawn. I know there are some people who are going to say I'm not cleaning my wash machine correctly, but I've heard experts say that with the front load washers, there is simply no way to get them completely dry. So you're going to have to just do your best to get them dry. That is important, but you can't really prevent all this junk from building up. I used a Thieves essential oil spray on this part and a toothbrush and some paper towels, and I just probably took me 30 or 45 minutes. I just got in every single nook and cranny and got it all out until it was nice and shiny. As promised, here's a closer look at the little clampy guy that you put on the hose to make sure it's sealed tightly, and here is a look at this little spring. As I said, I watched a lot of YouTube videos on how to do this, and one person took apart their washer. It looked super complicated, but the other videos, the people just said that they used their little tools and they didn't need to take it apart. It doesn't take long. It just looks intimidating, but it's not. I did not get footage pulling the top part off, but basically behind the washer, there are just some screws. You unscrew them and just pull. It comes right off. And then for all of these other panels, it's screws. I just kept all of them in like separate places. I notated what the screws were for, like this is for the front panel, this is for the top, etc. With that little control panel that I just removed, be careful because you have to kind of pull it off a little bit and then detach that little wire. I'll show it better when I put it back on. So anyway, I just pull off all of the screws, and the last one I kind of had to hold in place with my legs to get it off because that piece is heavy. This little black arm that plugs into the tube holes, that was really getting in my way putting the first wire back on, so I took that off. I heard a trick from several of the videos, and that is to get a little cup with soap water and then just kind of run your hands along the lip as you're putting it back on. It's kind of difficult to see how it goes back on. You have to just feel for it for a little while and then you'll figure it out. To the right, you can see these little jewelry hoops that I had that I put on so that I could pull the spring together, because the thing is, I am just not strong enough to get it together. But with those loops, it helped me pull it together, and so I felt pretty epic when I did that because I had asked my husband to help me. He was not able to get it together. We just didn't have the right tool, but I found a workaround. I was so proud of myself. Then I had to get this little black frame back into the tubes, and that was super hard. I thought at first I wasn't going to be able to do it, but if you just work it a little bit at a time and just pull it up ever so slightly and then ooch it, that's the only professional term I have, it will do it. So this is what it looks like when I had all of that done. The next thing to do was to attach the hoses again. It was much easier to get on than to get off, go figure. So I just did this top one here and then ooched the little clamp down, and that one was good to go. Then the little gray one, it was hard to see when I was taking it off, but it goes directly into the washer like that. And then of course this black one right here went along with the hose that I pulled out earlier. At this point, I needed to put the front of the washer back on because the second little spring is going to go around where that is. And you just have to make sure that the door latch is put in first and screw that on in. And then there are these little notches at the bottom, and you have to set it on the notches first and then push it in. I just put one little screw on that side. I think maybe I did two actually, 2 screws on that side so I wasn't having to hold that front panel while I put this next spring on. Prior to the point that you're watching right now, I had tried to put this on the washer like, I don't know, 2 hours. And I finally just looked at it and realized that the hook is not conducive to going on the little latch. So as you saw, I just bent the latch a little bit so that when I pulled it, it would just go right on as opposed to me having to work so hard. So I did it! It was such a huge relief. I thought I was actually gonna have to call a plumber. So at this point, all you're going to need to do is just backtrack. Like I said, I had all of the screws that belonged with certain parts in sections so that it would be easy for me to grab. And even so, I still ended up with an extra screw. But anyway, this is me trying to show you a little bit better how to get that little piece in your program panel before you fit it back in. And then here is this guy. I didn't show you taking it off, but it's just pushing it in. That's basically it. And then you have to get the screws to the back of it and screw it in so it's nice and tight. While I'm screwing all this in, I just like to say my biggest piece of advice is to make sure that you take apart the panel. It is so much easier. It is not hard to do at all. It just looks intimidating. But anyway, after everything was put back, I plugged it in. There's my extra screw. And moment of truth, that turned on. At this point, I was so nervous that I was gonna start a load of laundry and either the water wouldn't come out or it would spill all over the floor. So I, with great trepidation, started the washer, made sure that the water is on. In case you're wondering, it's on if it lines up with the hoses. If it's perpendicular, it's not. I sat there and waited, and the water went on. It washed everything. It smelled good. Success. Thank you so much for being here.